Well, what a test match the second test match at Lords was. It was, well, unbelievable that Australia won by 405 runs after the test match that we saw in Cardiff. And again, it was drop catches that cost the team that lost. I think we saw Steve Smith getting dropped on 50 in the first innings, and that cost England over 165 runs, and really that was where the game turned. And I think even in the third ball where Rogers got that nick that went over third slip, Joe Root didn't really give a full attempt there. It looked as though he just put his hands up there. It was just coming too quick for him, and he pulled out the last minute. So you really can't afford that, especially in the first over of a test match. So the momentum was going Australia's way from ball one. Yeah, the second evening, I think England were just a little bit slow on their legs. They've been out in the field for 2 days, and really they should be fitter than that. They should be tougher than that, and they should be prepared for it. So they've played a lot of first-class cricket, but I just think the top order of England is very brittle at the moment. Bell's out of form, or he's out of touch, and Balance doesn't look as though he's ripe at the moment. His footwork's just terrible. He's just playing from the crease, and the Australian bowlers are just able to bowl on a very good line of length, even a little bit fuller, and he's just missing outside the off stump. And other than Cook, the top four don't look good. I can't see Adam Lyth playing in the next test match. I think they're going to really have to take a risk. And I've been looking at the stats of first-class cricket over in England, and there's no one other than Johnny Bairstow that looks as though they can come into this England lineup. But that's going to have to revamp their team, because Johnny Bairstow bats out 5 for Yorkshire. So who are they going to get to open? They're going to have to reshuffle their batting order, and that looks as though Joe Root's going to have to go 4, and maybe Bell either goes 3 or opens. I can't see Bairstow opening. He just doesn't have the technique to open the batting. No, going back to Bairstow too, he's got 500s and 350s this year in first-class cricket, and I think he's got a double 100 as well as 108 not out in his last 2 outings in first-class cricket. Just like Mitchell Marsh had made the 200, so he is the man on form. If you've got a player like that doing well in first-class cricket, it's probably time to bring him in, even though he bats out 5, and England have got to reshuffle. It looked as though it played very true, but even in that first day, Chris Rogers, Steve Smith really batted well. Even David Warner in the first hour or so, he batted conservatively. The ball was doing a little bit there. It could have taken the edge at any time. We saw Chris Rogers play inside a couple, and it just missed the off stump to Broad. And the pitch had enough in there for the bowlers in that first innings, but I just don't think they bowled well enough. They were bowling too wide to Steve Smith. They weren't asking enough questions, and they didn't bowl well. And Jimmy Anderson looked as though he's under the weather. He didn't look fully fit, and without a fully fit Jimmy Anderson, their bowling attack is really depleted, because they're relying on Broad, who's bowling exceptionally well at the moment, and then you've got Wood, who hasn't bowled that much in Test cricket. And when you're relying on someone like Wood and Ali, who still, I think Ali's improved on his bowling, but he's still a part-time off spinner for my liking. They just don't have their depth in their bowling attack. Oh, how good is Mitchell Johnson? I must admit, I saw him over the IPL, and I don't really like, being on a negative front, but he wanted to be home during the IPL. He's got a very long cricket schedule. He hasn't been home with his family for a while, so he's a little bit down at that stage. But it's just good to see him get that lively bubble back, and wanting to be out there representing his country and bowling with fierce pace. And I've got to say, the English batsmen looked rather scared. And nothing against Ian Bell, but Ian Bell's out of sorts. His footwork's not going well. And I played with Ian out Warwickshire, and I thought he was one of the toughest cricketers I've played with, Ian Bell. And when Ian Bell's looking like that, it's not good signs for England. Australia, on paper, are miles in front of England. England rely too heavily on Cook and Joe Root at the present moment with their batting. Stokes has lifted. Butler, I thought, would be doing a little bit better with his batting. But I'm still backing Butler to score runs in the next three tests. I think he's a quality player and he's going to show us something. But their top four are so brittle, apart from Alistair Cook, that Australia are just licking their lips. I think it's the last 13 innings that England have found themselves 3 for 30, 3 for 40, even 4 for 30 at stages. And when your batting team are 4 for 30 so often, you're not going to win too many Test matches. And look, they've just got to go away. And I think they feel as though they're out of their depth. They looked as though they're out of their depth, but they've just got to sit down and go, right, how are we going to challenge Australia? How are we going to stay in the contest? Don't worry about winning. It's just more about how we're going to stay in the contest, how are we going to compete. And once you start competing, the momentum turns around. Australia got that momentum in the first day, and England just couldn't turn it around. Alistair Cook tried with that beautiful 90 in the first innings. That's one of the best innings I've ever seen in Test cricket. It was a gutsy innings, but there was no one there apart from Stokes to help him out. And they've just got to sit there in the next three Test matches and just try and compete. Oh, they are still young men, but I think now with the momentum going in Australia's favour, I think the pressure has been taken off Steve Smith, especially with Rogers making runs. So I think Mitchell Marsh and Neville have come in and shown their true worth. Hopefully Brad Haddin, actually, let's just go back to Brad Haddin. Hopefully all's well with his daughter and things are going well with his family. It's disappointing in that regard. So Australia have got some decisions around that, whether to bring Brad back or keep with Neville. Neville did a fantastic job with both gloves and the bat, so he got 45. So I think they'll be trying to talk to Brad Haddin about where he sees his future with Test cricket and just seeing the opportunities for Neville. And I think that they'll try and do it with full respect to Brad Haddin. But if you just look at those two, they played a prominent part. Mitchell Marsh was averaging 164 with the ball leading into this final or leading into this Test match, and everyone was going, well, he's pretty ordinary with the ball. Well, for WA, he gets those breakthroughs, and as we saw in this Test match, he got the vital breakthroughs of important wickets throughout that match, and that's just his true quality. And I full appreciation of Michael Clarke, the way he utilised the bowlers. Mitchell came on, got a wicket, and new batsman comes to the crease, so he brings on his premier strike bowlers. That's the sign of a great captain, not just going with the flow and just letting the game just run its natural course. He's making the play, and that's why Australia are so good at the present moment.